Alright, folks, we are back with another video on the Road to 2000 Rapid ELO series. It is currently, I believe, day number 9, and I think it's been going pretty well so far. Now, we started this journey with a rating of exactly 1600, and we started off with a bit of a mixed bag. We had our first win, we had our first loss, we had our first draw, all within the first 3 games. But since then, I have not lost or drawn a single game. We are currently on a 5-game win streak, and hopefully this will make it a 6th. And I know this win streak can't last forever, but I will definitely try to make sure that it lasts as long as it possibly can. So with that being said, don't forget to like the video, to subscribe to the channel. I've been checking like the YouTube analytics. I've been learning how that works, and a lot of you aren't subscribed, so definitely click that button. It's completely free and it helps me out a lot. And I appreciate all you guys watching, liking, commenting. It really does mean a lot to have your support along the way. And let's see if your support can carry me all the way to a rating of over 1650, which I think we might get if we win this game. Let's find out. I'm clicking play, starting a 10-minute game, no increments. And we're playing against a 1604, and unfortunately, if we win this game, we only gain 7 elo, which means I'd be 1649. But first, we'd have to win this game, so I don't want to get too far ahead of myself. We're playing against a Sicilian. I have the choice of playing an open Sicilian, but I feel like today I do want to play the Smith-Morra again. I've only played it once in the series so far, and it went pretty well from what I remember. So let's see if we can recreate our success, and if ever I run into adversity with the Morra, I'll probably try playing something different, like an anti-Sicilian or an open. But here, oh wow, this is an interesting move, g6. I guess the idea is to play bishop g7 and adopt more of a long distance approach. But doesn't this let me take full advantage of what's good about the Morra, which is, control of the center and early development? Because it is a little passive from what it looks like to me. Let's see. So for example, what if I just play here right now? If I were to just play here right now, they'd have knight h6. And that kind of is a little bit annoying. But what if I were to play knight g5? Knight h6 I think is the only move they could play to be able to stop the threat on f7. And then what if I were to play something like queen d5? Queen d5 would lead to e6. And I think that this does not work, unfortunately, at least off first glance. Now, another thing I could do is immediately play queen d5, threatening mate, and then if e6 is played, play something like queen d6. Now, that is an interesting proposition, but you can just trade off the queens pretty easily in that scenario, so I won't do that. Instead, let's see if we can try to make these ideas work a little bit better. What if I could try to get this move, knight e5, to work? Unfortunately, right now it doesn't seem likely. What if I could get e5 as a move to work? Now that seems like a better option. So I'm going to go bishop f4. And hopefully my logic there makes sense. It also makes sense to castle, but I think bringing out all my pieces is also a good idea. Now, okay, I was thinking maybe he'd play e5, but here I can just toss in e5 myself pretty easily and stop progress for my opponent. And I mean, the development of the queen is pretty stunted just because it doesn't have any squares that can attack any of my pieces, at least not from what I can tell immediately. So let's play e5. Usually I like to castle here, but I think now that I have e5 as a move, I do really like the look of it. Although maybe he has now knight e7 and then coming out to f5. Maybe I'll castle first. Or he might play this. Is that a move? That doesn't seem to be a move. I think I'll just castle. And then probably push e5. We can save e5, the pawn push, because that is a committal pawn push. And right now, it seems like the logical way for his knight to develop would be here and then here. There we go. And now e4 looks pretty solid. If we go e5, then there's this idea to put the knight on f5. I don't want to allow that. So now I'm thinking maybe queen e2 and put the rook on d1, which is a very common idea in the Smith-Morra, to be able to apply central pressure against the queen. I also really like the look of putting this bishop on d6, now that I think about it. Maybe I should have thought about it a little bit earlier, but that looks like a very, very strong move, because how do you essentially navigate against that with black? It's really hard to do. Wow, okay, they're playing this anyways. Is that possible? 1, 2, 3 defenders. 1, 2, 3 defenders. It is possible, but isn't this knight will be pinned at the end of the line? I think they missed this. So we're gonna take. Oh, maybe bishop takes. I should have thought of that. Okay, bishop doesn't take. Interesting. That knight is pinned, so they cannot take. And now I just think we're doing better. Okay. Now let's see. I have this knight move which looks very, very good. Just immediately. I don't even have to think too hard about this one. Do I have better? It doesn't look like it. It looks like this knight move is just really, really good. It wins a rook. And I don't even need to take the rook right away, because this bishop is... Well, it's not even hanging, actually. I can just win the exchange right away. Just win the exchange right away. Because this bishop's not even hanging because of my queen. Let's think. No, that doesn't make sense. Let's win the exchange. Let's win the exchange. If bishop takes, queen takes. Simple enough. Nothing too crazy here. And I don't think I'm missing anything. And now after queen takes, I have this nice move. Bishop c6. Which looks pretty promising. I don't care about this pawn on b2. I've noticed that it's hanging. I'm not completely blind, at least yet. It might take time. Also, wait, hold on. Maybe I have some ideas with... Can I go here and then here? That looks like a good move. So let's go bishop d6. I have ideas with the knight coming in onto g5, threatening mate. We'll save those ideas for later. Right now, I don't see a downside to this move. We're pinning the knight to the king. I am up at exchange right now cleanly, and the Smith-Morra paying dividends right away. Right away. It's lovely to see. Okay. What do we got here? Now I'm thinking rook e1. Very natural looking move, rook e1. Just adding pressure to the pin piece. PP on the PP. Put pressure on the pin piece. I think that's something Gotham Chess said, if I remember correctly. Correct me if I'm wrong, folks. You all are probably much more well-versed in YouTube chess culture than I am. But let's do this. And, you know, we can always take, like, the nice thing about a pin is you never need to act on it immediately. A pin will always stay a pin, unless if, like, very, very special circumstances where they can block the pin or add in a piece to counter the pin, while also creating a threat, in which case you have to address the threat, and they're able to get out of the pin safely. But here we're totally fine. I think I'm just going to take. I mean, I am up in exchange. Don't need to get fancy with it. We're going to bring our other rook into the game on d1, probably. Really don't care about this pawn. What I do care, though, is not accidentally moving this pawn and losing a rook, because that's definitely something that can happen to me. I am privy to those types of errors. Here we can maybe play knight e5. Knight e5 and try to trade off the bishop for a knight. This obviously threatens taking the pawn on f7. He could also just defend. That's an option. But if he defends with the rook, then I have knight d7. So, and hopefully he even defends with the queen. I would love that. Okay, so he takes, which is the right move. I have to make sure I'm not hanging any forks. I think I would go too quickly sometimes. But I do have to make sure I'm not hanging any forks. This also attacks the knight, which is a nice little added benefit. So he probably is going to go here, is what I would guess, if I were to venture a guess. And it just looks really good for us. Things look really, really good for us. Maybe slide the rook all the way back, or maybe bring it just to e2 so I can line up the rooks on e2 and e1. That never seems like a bad option. Obviously, right now my rook's hanging, so that's a worry, that's a concern. Maybe I could even go after pawns, but right now there's nothing that's really hanging. Maybe I go rook e3 and then rook f3, trying to attack this pawn. So I go rook e3. Can he put pressure on my pieces? He can attack my queen like this, but it doesn't do anything. So let's go rook e3. I don't see a downside to this move. At least not on first glance. And then we're gonna go rook f3. Although rook f3, then we walk into this. So I gotta watch out. I gotta be a little careful. Let's go rook e1 instead first. And what we're going to try to do is we're going to try to aim all our pieces in the back. So I'm going to put my queen here, and I'm going to go rook here. We're going to see if we can trade stuff off. I think that's the plan. I also have to worry about back rank. That is definitely a thing that can happen to just about any player. I know I'm 1642. It doesn't mean it doesn't mean I am immune to back rank checkmate. So going something like g3 or h3 at any time could be useful. Probably in this case h3, just because I know the queen is on a light square and the long diagonal might open up. It's not really a concern, but it's just one of those things where it's like, hey, it doesn't hurt to be careful. Maybe I can go here with check. The only reason why I'm not going here immediately is that there is this knight move that's really annoying. So I'm just gonna go queen c3 with check. I'm not hanging anything. I'm just doing blunder checks very quickly when I make these moves, just to make sure that I'm not, messing anything up too drastically. I am down on the clock. I'm down 2 minutes, so I might play moves pretty fast. Essentially, the one thing that matters the most is not blundering. So a likely move, for example, would be rook d3 for me, the next move. Rook d3, trying to trade off the rooks. Makes a lot of sense to me. If the trade happens, phenomenal. If it doesn't, then I have rook d7, and then queen f5 as an idea. So rook d7, is there a way of attacking this rook? Not at the moment, because my other rook covers the e5 square. There is the move... Oh, hold on. Right now, my queen is aligned with the rook. Okay, I gotta watch out for that. That's the sort of thing that could get nasty. Here, looks like a promising move. Queen f6. No real way to attack my queen. If my rook is attacked, then I have this rook d7 move that looks like it's just crushing. Because after adding a piece here, I can just go rook e7. Probably the best move is to go back with the knight. Actually, no, that would be terrible. Scratch that, never mind. Okay, but isn't this just losing? Let's just go rook e3. Not blunder anything. If I were to take queen takes and then I have to worry about back rank threats, I'd rather trade on my own terms. Have that queen stuck in the corner on a8, which I like. Okay. Take. Still no forks, still no ideas or threats with the knight. If I can't go here right now. I would love to, but I can't. I assume the queen's gonna go here. Oh, the queen can't really develop to an active square. That's good, okay. And, so yeah, we're just gonna go, I believe, h3. That's what I had in mind. To be able to create some lift and not get bank rank baited. Bank rank. What am I saying? Bank rank. Back rank checkmated is what I meant to say. Now, let's see what my opponent decides to do. I have to make sure I don't flag. That is, something that we saw happen in the second game of the series where I was completely winning but ended up... Wait, isn't this mate? I believe this is checkmate, folks. Rook e8 check, king h7, rook h8 checkmate, if I'm not mistaken. And that's a really nice win. They're not letting me finish the game off. Oh wow, 3 mistakes, 1 blunder, 1 miss. Okay, so this game did not go as well as I thought it did. I thought it was a really good win. Let's see what the analysis says, because I felt I played well, but maybe y'all saw some mistakes I made, and if you did, let me know right now in the comments before you watch the analysis, and we'll take a look in the analysis what exactly I could have done better. Well, it is now time to analyze, and I thought I played that game pretty well, and I'm definitely happy with the result. Don't get me wrong, but as we saw at the end of the game, I apparently made a couple of mistakes, so let's take a look at what exactly happened and what I could have done better during the game. So it started with e4, e4 c5, so a Sicilian, and I decided to play the Smith-Morra gambit, which is an opening that I'm very familiar with. I've played successfully in the past, and played again this time around, so playing d4 and then c3 after pawn takes, and in this case the Smith-Morra gambit was accepted. One quick little thing to note is that my opponent doesn't have to take back. They could play something as simple as like knight f6, for example, and this is going to be the Smith-Morra gambit decline, and this transitions into an Alpine style game, where, you know, after I play e5, the knight goes on to d5, and now I take back, probably, is the most likely scenario, and this is essentially an Alpine, just transposed into an Alpine. And black has this option if they don't want to play into the tactics behind the Smith-Morra. However, my opponent plays into it and goes knight c6, a very normal move. And after knight f3, they played g6, which I'm not super used to. Fianchettoing the bishop is the idea, and that is what happens on the next move. I'm not used to this. Engine doesn't fully approve. It says it's okay. It says the game is pretty much equal. Although I do like this idea for black, because if you're like me and you don't really recognize this, it's hard to maintain the advantage. I only have 2 moves, really, to maintain the advantage, as the engine says, e5 and castles. Luckily, both of these moves are very logical moves to play. Although, actually, now that I think about it, e5 does not look like a logical move at all. Let's see what the idea is. So e5, why can't the knight just take? Okay, it can. Knight takes, bishop takes, and now black is up 2 pawns. Oh, wow. Okay, bishop takes f7 with the idea, I believe, queen d5 check. Bishop takes f7 is a brilliant, according to chess.com. And then you have queen d5. If you block, then queen takes. So your preferred option is actually moving the king to g7. Anything else is substantially worse for black. Wow, very interesting. So let's say pawn blocks for you know, illustration's sake, just because it's natural to try to want to develop the queen, and you're going to want to play maybe d6 afterwards and develop your bishop. Although I guess e6 blunts the development of your bishop, so maybe not e6. Let's say the king goes to f8, for example. Now after queen takes, knight f6, in order to stop the rook from hanging, there's this bishop h6 check move. Okay, and I guess the reason why they want the king onto g7 is to prevent this with tempo. Maybe. Interesting. Interesting. Okay, I did not see this at all. Cool idea, though. Cool idea. That's definitely something that I think the higher we go up the rating ladder, the more likely it is for players to spot this. Instead, I played castles. Oh, wait, I didn't even play castles, actually. I played bishop f4. Bishop f4 was meant to prepare e5. So I guess I could have maybe just thought about e5 a little bit more and calculated whether or not this sequence was possible. Very interesting. Very, very interesting. Technically, I didn't even have to sack the bishop, right? Now I'm thinking, here, in a case like this, where knight takes, bishop takes, do I have to sack the bishop? Can I not go queen d5? Threatening checkmate? If queen d5, oh, okay, interesting. Now my opponent has bishop takes on c3 first, so they don't lose the bishop. They don't lose a pawn this way, because now they go e6. Interesting. Oh wow, very cool, very cool. Okay, noted. Yeah, these are ideas that are going to be more and more prevalent, I think, as we move up the ladder. So good to spot this. And so I played this move, bishop f4, because I didn't spot this, and I wanted to play e5. And here, my opponent allows me to play e5, but an even better option, and I should see this. This is a very common idea. Another opening that I'm known for playing. This is the second video in a row where I sneeze in the middle of the analysis. But another opening that I used to play in the past was the Jobava London, and in the Jobava London, this is a very, very common idea. And I totally missed this. Now that the knight is centered on c6, there is no way to defend this pawn, this square c7. No good way to defend it, and so knight b5 is a huge, huge, huge threat. Because after knight d5, let's say, you can't protect this square. Let's say you want to try to protect the rook. Well, you can't. The rook can't move here because there's a bishop eyeing that square. So that just wins an exchange pretty much cleanly. I missed this completely. Okay, that's good to know. Wow. All right. I just castled because castling's a very normal move in the Smith-Morra gambit. And I mean, to my credit, white is simply better here, plus 0.85, almost plus 0.1. Now, knight e7 happens, and I have the same move possible, and I miss it. And here I play queen e2, which is also a very common move. And now my opponent makes this big mistake, going d5 and not realizing that their knight on e7 will be pinned at the end of the line. And here, that's just, I win the pawn back. And after this move, I finally see knight c7 check, which I do play. And here I take the rook. Apparently, knight takes on e6 is even better. I mean, now we're going into like everything's winning here. But knight takes on e6 is interesting because after pawn takes back, you have queen takes on e6, threatening checkmate. It's very, very difficult to stop. If you play queen e8, now I can just very, very calmly bring in my pieces into the battle. So, for example, rook fe1, and then pinning, playing something like bishop b5 or bishop at d5, try to get rid of the defender of this knight. And there's just way too much pressure. My opponent's crumbling, which is the real power of the Smith-Morra gambit, is just the pressure you apply down the center that you open up willingly by sacrificing the pawn. So here we take and we win the exchange. Now we win the bishop back, and we're cleanly up an exchange here, and it's all about converting. So I decided to go for the natural option of trading minor pieces, which is something that I'm able to do. And keep in mind, when a piece is pinned to a king, you do not need to take right away. That pin will stay there another move because they cannot, escape with this piece. So adding pressure to the pin piece and trying to win it cleanly is generally a good idea. Here, there's no way to win it cleanly. You're going to have to exchange, but still, activating a rook never hurts. Now that the king steps away is the time to claim that piece and make the exchange. So that's what I do. And here I go knight e5. Knight e5 with the idea of threatening f7. And after, the bishop takes, rook takes, and here rook e3 with the idea of doubling my rooks on the e-file and going into back rank territory. So that's what happens. I play queen c3 here with a check, setting the king away. I wanted to play this move initially, queen e2, with the idea that if you gave me two moves, queen e2, rook e8 essentially forces a trade of queens and rooks, because after rook takes, queen takes, this queen is kind of trapped. You don't want to block with the knight because then I can bring my rook in and then win the knight and the queen. So you obviously don't want to do that, so you're forced to take back, and then we're pretty much going to enter an endgame where I'm just up an exchange simply, and a rook is much, much better than a knight in an open position. So instead I go queen check on... Oh wait, and the reason why I didn't do that is because if I went queen e2, there was this move that I found annoying, knight d4. It's not the end of the world, but it is a little annoying, and I didn't want to allow that, so I checked first. Then I went rook d3, trying to force a rook trade. And here, queen f6 is meant to cut off the king, and eventually that is a move that essentially won me the game, because when the opponent goes queen f5, I have this nice move, rook e8, forcing a checkmate into where the king has to go to h7, and then I simply have rook h8 checkmate. So, very solid game, a very solid game. The mistakes and the misses were missed opportunities to win the exchange earlier on. Thankfully, my opponent also missed those ideas and ended up, realizing it a little bit too late, which is to say, they realized it after I did, and after I was able to take advantage of it. And a win is a win, and this is really nice. 1649 elo, simply 8 days into the series, if I remember correctly. 8 or 9 days into the series. What day are we at? Hold on, I have to check now. Let's go actually look at my profile. All right, well, I'm on my profile, and it seems that since the first game I've played, which was this one against the 1620, where I reached 1609 and got a win, I have played a total of 9 games. So 1 win, a draw, a loss, and then 6 wins in a row now. So we've played a total of 9 games. We've won 7 of them, which is quite wild. And tomorrow is going to be video number 10, which is very, very exciting. Let's see how that one goes. I hope you guys enjoyed this one. It was quite the win, and hopefully we can round it off by hitting higher than a 1650 elo after 10 days in, which would be more than a 50 elo gain. Tomorrow, fingers crossed, let's see. Hopefully you all enjoyed today's video. If you have any comments, any feedback, any advice, as always, you're more than welcome to share, and on the contrary, encouraged to share. And I've loved having all of you share your thoughts so far. So keep that coming. Thank you, and I'll see you next time. Au revoir.